Hey everyone, it's College Football Live with Molly McGrath, Desmond Howard, and Paul Feinbaum. And after talking about expansion for 15 months and hiring 2 consulting firms to explore how that could affect the league, the Big 12 decided on Monday that they would stay put at 10 teams. This leaving 17 schools disappointed and all of college football very confused. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said via Twitter, the Big 12 owes a lot of people an apology. It punted on expansion and shanked its future. Houston deserved better. And San Antonio businessman and prominent Texas Longhorn booster Red McComb said this made a mistake. It's a terrible decision. They pile one mistake on top of another. So people in Texas not happy. That can't be good for the conference. Paul, did the Big 12 get this right?
I don't think they did. Houston was, on the other hand, Houston was the only other school I think that would have made a difference. It really wasn't so much their final decision, Molly. It was the charade that has been conducted by Bob Bowlesby in this league for a very long time. What was the point of it? They embarrassed a lot of really good universities. They made them beg and spend millions of dollars trying to make presentations. And in the end, I think the league has signed its own death certificate. I think they'll hang around for a while, but long term, I think this league is done.
I agree with Paul. I believe that this is a mistake. It's appeared to us that they needed to have an expansion so they can have a conference championship game, especially when we saw what happened a couple of years ago when they couldn't crown one champion because they don't have a game. So they actually crowned 2 champions, leaving the Big 12 out of the first college football playoff. So the school of thought here was, okay, get a conference championship game by expanding, and then all will be well with the Big 12. And I agree with you 100%, Paul. I mean, you can't have these schools spending all of this money for presentations to try to join your conference, and then you say, you know what? Nah, we're okay. We're good at 10. We're not going to expand. That's just so unfair to everyone who spends so much time, energy, and money in trying to come up with these great presentations so they could join the Big 12. I don't understand why they decided to stay at 10, Paul. This is, this is some type of chicanery going on with Bob Bowlesby and that group.
Yeah, Desmond, listen, they didn't have a lot of great choices, but Houston was a very good choice. I think everyone would agree on that. After that, it became problematic. Yeah, exactly. But it was just a process. It wasn't well thought out. And, listen, I don't know. Bob Bowlesby is making millions of dollars to be the conference commissioner. He screwed up the thing you talked about a minute ago by not defining who the champion was going to be. He left the league hanging out to dry. Now, last year, Oklahoma got in. This year, it's another conversation. I know we'll get to it in a moment. But this league really, when I talk about having no future, first of all, you have Texas in here who attempted to hijack the league itself 4 or 5 years ago. Remember the whole Big 12 thing. Oklahoma clearly is looking around. So, and on top of that, you have 2 ex-Big 12 members, Nebraska and A&M, sitting in the top 10 right now. So how did that work out?
No, you're 100% right. And you look at the state of the conference right now, it just seems as though it's in disarray. I mean, it's 2 perennial powerhouses, especially with Texas not looking like what a Texas team should look like. And, the one team that people may consider that could possibly make it to the college football playoff if they win out is Baylor, and they have their own problems and issues down there in Waco. So it just seems like right now the Big 12 conference is in such disarray.
And one more thing. I mean, listen, in fairness, TCU was a very good addition a couple of years ago. West Virginia is having a really good year, although it's traveling halfway across the country to go to games, which are issues. But in the end, I just don't understand how a league can have such little direction. And what you heard yesterday, everyone was singing Kumbaya, but it didn't last. People inside that room were whispering to others. And when you have the governor of the state, you have Red McCombs, these are important people in that state saying what they're saying, the league has no path forward.
Well, Des mentioned 2014 when Baylor and TCU were on the outside looking in. Baylor has the best chance, the best FPI chance of winning out in the Big 12. So, Paul, if Baylor or West Virginia run the table, could we see an undefeated Big 12 champ actually be left out of the playoff yet again?
Molly, it's possible. When you start thinking about it, it seems to me that Baylor is the most likely of the 2 to escape. They both have interesting games coming up, but I think Baylor might be the better team. But Baylor is reviled by a lot of people. I'm not talking about the players on this team. I'm not talking about Coach Grobe. I'm talking about what was in the past. And think about Michigan, just for one example here. What if Michigan loses a 1-point game or a 2-point game to Ohio State? That's going to be a 2 versus 3 matchup, and you're going to take Baylor, which played just an abominable non-conference schedule, versus a Michigan or an Ohio State or even Louisville, which lost a tight game at Clemson. I mean, I don't think that I don't get that. And just because you win the Big 12, and again, you play everyone in the conference, but you don't have the conference championship game like everyone else, to me, they stand a very good chance of getting left out, and I would agree with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you said it all, Paul. They don't have a conference championship game. They have their own issues. Baylor, they have their own issues off the field. You look at the Power Five, this would probably be the weakest conference of the 5 conferences, and they will probably be left out. So, that's a great point. If Michigan, Ohio State, they play a really close game in Columbus, and Michigan only loses by a point or 2, I think especially the draw to get Michigan and to get Jim Harbaugh, because he moves the needle, I think that may have some weight in the College Football Playoff Committee's selection room. And then I could actually see a 1-loss Michigan getting into the College Football Playoff over a Baylor, like you said, because of the non-conference schedule, and they have their own off-the-field issues that people aren't excited about either.
So, Paul, do you agree that you would take a 1-loss Bama, Louisville, or the loser of Ohio State, Michigan over an undefeated Baylor or West Virginia?
Molly, right now I would. Now, again, 6-7 weeks from now, we could have a different view. But I know these schools have played people in the non-conference. West Virginia opened up against Missouri. I think that was it, and certainly Baylor. We've talked about their non-conference schedule here before. SMU and Rice, and I mean that's embarrassing. I mean, it's absolutely embarrassing when you consider. I mean, Michigan played Colorado, a very respectable Pac-12 team. Ohio State. Let's say it loses. It went to Oklahoma. I mean, we're not even talking about this. These are apples to oranges here. And
exactly.
And again, you have to, in good conscience, take Baylor's scandal off the board. Although it would be difficult for me, in full disclosure, if I was sitting on that committee, to completely wipe that out of my mind.
Well, it's human nature. And, the people in the room making these decisions, we're not talking about computers at this point. We're talking about people. And I think that it would probably come up and play its part in the decision-making process, whether it should or shouldn't. They just had a float down there in Waco where it had it was like a float of sweeping something under the rug. And it was like that student body still not happy with the way that the administration handled the sexual assaults down there in Waco. So this thing just keeps rearing its ugly head for Baylor.
And Des, not to get into that issue, but this wasn't just an isolated football situation. I mean, this was the whole university complicit in my mind. I mean, the president, the chancellor, the AD, everyone got wiped out. So this isn't just one situation on a football program. This is a systemic issue at Baylor University.
Yeah, that controversy at Baylor definitely adding to more of the troubles for the Big 12. They could be on the outside looking in yet again. All right, coming up, could Alabama actually beat